Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Tuesday edition of our show. As promised, we always do our best to align with the first game of the next series for the Athletics. So that's why we're meeting today as compared to our normal Monday schedule. Today is Tuesday, August 4th. We've got a good show for you. We're going to recap what went down over the weekend as the Tigers came into West Sacramento to end the homestand and swept the Green and Golden way. We'll recap how it all went down. From there, we'll discuss one move that the A's conducted at the trade deadline buzzer, as the A's acquired right-handed pitcher Seth Johnson from the Phillies in exchange for outfielder Colby Thomas. Just wanted to make and touch upon that. Later, we're going to discuss Nick Kurtz. He did meet with a hand specialist yesterday in Los Angeles. At the time of recording, we're still awaiting the results of that. We'll have an update later on social media, but we'll discuss what they potentially will be taking a look at and what his future outlook may look like for the rest of this season. And then before we get on out of here, we'll be sure to preview the A's next opponent as they are set to kick off their road trip. First stop in Cincinnati to take on the Reds for a 3-game set in OHIO. Lots to unpack. Let's get to it. Holy Toledo. Let's go A's. All right, there, A's Day fans. Thank you again for tuning in to our Tuesday edition, or whenever you're listening to this edition of A's Day. Appreciate all of your support to hear our thoughts on everything athletics baseball. All right, for today's show, let's jump right in and recap what went down over the weekend against the Detroit Tigers. Let's take it back to Friday night in West Sacramento. Troy Holton getting the ball for the Tigers going up against A's left-hander Jeffrey Springs. With one out, and for the 5th game in a row, the A's would get the scoring started in this one. In the bottom of the first, Jonah Heim would deliver an RBI single, bringing home Jacob Wilson to grab the early 1-0 lead. The Tigers would respond later in the 3rd inning with a little bit of power. Rookie shortstop Kevin McGonigal hammered a solo home run to center field, as it's now a 1-1 game. In the 4th, McGonigal would deliver again for Detroit, but this time it would be via a sacrifice fly. In the process, he gives the Tigers a 2-1 lead. Springs would finish 4 innings, and that would be all for his start. Springs went 4 innings in this one, allowed 4 hits, 2 runs, 5 walks, 2 strikeouts. This would remain a 2-1 game thanks to the great bullpen work from both teams to keep this a 1-run contest until the 8th inning. And in the 8th, we would be witness to an offensive explosion, and it was rather one-sided. Rookie Max Clark, after earlier collecting his first career Major League hit in his MLB debut, would deliver an RBI double, now collecting his first career Major League run batted in. Javier Baez drove in a run via his infield single. Ben Malgary would ground into a fielder's choice with the bases loaded, bringing home another run. And then with 1 out, catcher Dylan Dingler provided the knockout blow via a grand slam to cap the 7-run inning for Detroit. Once the ball soars into the West Sacramento night and over the wall, the Tigers now lead 9-1. The Tigers would get 4 more in the 9th off the bat of a 2-run single by Baez and Malgary's first career Major League home run, a 2-run shot to bring us to our game's final. Ball game over. Tigers win Game 1 this past Friday night, 13-1. So Springs, he was better with the run prevention side of things, but he was not good with his command, and he didn't provide the longevity that you would hope, especially kicking off a weekend series or a series in general. Only being able to last 4 innings was due to trying to be a little bit too fine. I think Springs is in the midst of attempting to make adjustments, and when he's trying to be a little bit too pinpoint with his location, I think he goes a little bit awry. So he's trying to battle through his struggles. Obviously, it's been well aware. We continue to go another start without a win or a winning decision in spring. I think now it's 18 straight starts or something like that since his last victory, so that's got to be frustrating. But the 5 walks is a concern. I know he's trying to avoid hitter-friendly locations and keep the ball in the ballpark. So over his 4 innings of work, limiting the 2 runs, I think is a good job there. But due to the lack of command and the early exit, it's not doing the team any favors. I mean, after that 4th inning, he left 86 pitches. I mean, even if he comes out into the 5th, I think he gets through that at the most, but you can see he was laboring all throughout. It just put more pressure on the bullpen, which eventually cracked in the 8th. But I thought Hayden Yinger and Brady Basso did a good job. Basso in his first 2 innings of work, and then ran into some trouble, and those runners that he left on base when he departed in his 3rd inning of work did come around to score. So really no favors done there. But I thought they did a pretty good job keeping the Tigers at bay and giving this A's offense an opportunity to get back into this one, but they were shut down. They were non-existent all throughout. I mean, they only got 3 hits collectively. They went 3 for 29, 3 walks against 7 Ks, over 3 in runners in scoring position. So not a ton of opportunities there. And they only had the 1 extra base hit, which came all the way early back on in the 1st inning via Jonah Heim's double in the 1st. Aside from that, they strung together 2 more singles and 5 walks. That's not really going to support an offensive cause. So it was a tight game until the 8th. And then it got out of hand clearly, where the Tigers offense really went to work. Luis Morales, he kind of imploded there in that inning. Definitely could see a lack of confidence there. He is filling up the strike zone mode consistently, but it's not really, again, in pitcher-friendly locations. So that's something that he needs to continue to work through. After all the promise that he showed last year, perhaps being a potential pillar in this rotation for the future, he is really marred in the struggle in his current bullpen role, trying to figure it out and get back on track. But definitely a lot of discouraging signs there. Hopefully that there's something for him to learn from, but doesn't look good there at the moment. Nick Kurtz in this one, he was pinch hit for in the 8th. And it was after the game got out of hand, after the Tigers went up 9-1. So perhaps they didn't want to push it too much further with Kurtz. I wonder if he takes that at bat. If it is still a 1-run game, I would imagine that he does. But he is still currently experiencing some pain in his hand on certain swings, and we'll talk about a little bit more later, but he was scheduled to meet with a hand specialist in LA yesterday. Haven't heard the full update report on how all of that went, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So certainly a rough way to start the weekend. With the loss, however, just need to flush it, easier said than done, and come back to fight the following day, which they did have an opportunity this past Saturday night at Sutter Health Park. As we keep moving our recap along, Game 2 featured the matchup of Framber Valdez going for the Tigers, going up against the A's right-hander, Jack Perkins. This time, the Tigers would get the scoring started right off the bat. Kevin McGonigal would lead off the game with a solo home run to the opposite field to left. Back-to-back nights with a homer for the rookie shortstop as the Tigers have an immediate 1-0 lead. Later in the first, Colt Keith would drive home an RBI single, bringing home Gleyber Torres and giving the Tigers a 2-0 lead. The A's would have an answer in the bottom of the 3rd as Lawrence Butler would deliver an RBI single with 2 outs, bringing home Jacob Wilson and cutting the deficit in half as it's now a 2-1 game. In the 4th, Jacob Wilson would ground it to a fielder's choice to 3rd, but Henry Bolte would come home to score in the process, and now it's all tied up. It's a 2-2 game. In the 5th, the Tigers would move back ahead. Gleyber Torres would hammer a 2-run homer to right center to give the Tigers a 4-2 lead. In the 6th, the Tigers would flash some more power. Max Clark would smash a 2-run home run to right center, the first of his major league career. Lots of firsts knocked off the list for the rookie Clark through these first 2 games. It's now a 6-2 Detroit lead. After Perkins got Javier Baez to strike out swinging, manager Mark Kotsay would go to the bullpen, bringing an end to Perkins' night. Perkins in this one went 5 1/3 innings, allowed 9 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. In the 7th, the Tigers would increase their lead thanks to an RBI single to left from Spencer Torkelson, as it's now a 7-2 game. In the 8th, McGonigal's big weekend continued as he drove in another via an RBI single, as it's now an 8-2 lead. In the bottom of the 8th, Henry Bolte would swing the A's back into this one via a 3-run home run, his 4th of the year. As it's now a 3-run game, it's an 8-5 Tiger lead. To the 9th we go. Do the A's have a rally in their bones? Jeff McNeil would reach via an RBI bunt single, bringing home Tyler Soderstrom to bring the score to 8-6. However, Henry Bolte would fly out to left to end this one as the tying run. Benches did end up clearing briefly as closer from the Tigers, Kenley Jansen, was upset about Jeff McNeil's 9th inning RBI single. Don't really understand why. Play to win until the 27th out. Didn't change the outcome, unfortunately. Ball game over. Tigers take Game 2 8-6 and secure the series victory by taking the first 2 in this 3-game set. So, Jack Perkins, definitely a mixed bag in this one. I would say definitely on the lower totem pole of quality starts for him. This was not a quality start. Got roughed up by the long ball, gave up 3 home runs, 2 of them with traffic on the base paths. Those always are going to inflict more damage And that turned out to be the difference in the ball game. Because you can live with giving up now, like in this situation, Perkins gives up 3 home runs in this game. 2 of them are 2-run shots. So those are connecting innings. But let's just say those are all those are all solo home runs. You can survive that. And if you look back on the scoreboard deficit, cut those in half, that's a tie ball game. Now, it's easier said than done because the pathway of the game could have taken a different direction dependent on the situation. Maybe different arms are in there. Who knows? But in this situation, because even in that 9th inning, let's just say those are solo home runs, it's a 6-5 game, maybe Jeff McNeil doesn't have as much accessibility to get that bunt single down, because in that situation, down 3, the defense really wasn't expecting a bunt there. But in a 1-run game, they may be playing in to try to cut off that run, and that play may have ended up being unsuccessful. So easier said than done once again. Anything couldn't happen. They weren't meant to win this ball game, especially going down early. I do appreciate the fight. The offense showing a little bit more of a resiliency in this one. 15 for 40, 3 walks against 9 Ks, 4 guys with multi-hit games in Bolte, White, Butler, and Soderstrom, but lots of empty results with runners in scoring position. They had a lot of at-bats with runners in scoring position, 5 for 19. So they cashed in on some of them, but man, a lot of ways. That's 14 missed opportunities that even if you cash in on 2 of those, perhaps the outcome of this game is completely flipped. But we'll never know now. A's do drop this one by 2, but Perkins, he had the strikeout pitch working because, you take away, and obviously you can, but besides getting hit, getting damaged by the long ball, he really did pitch pretty decently in between that. So that's why I consider it a mixed bag, and I do feel that line doesn't fully dictate how he ended up pitching in this one. I mean, it clearly wasn't good enough. I mean, 6 runs isn't going to cut it, and he's got to find a way to miss bats or at least hitter-friendly locations. It just did seem like he was falling behind a little bit in this one. Being below that 70% threshold is where I kind of look at pitchers having a decent showing of getting ahead of hitters. Now, I know there are certain situations that dictate that, dependent on maybe who's behind the plate, maybe the part of the lineups that you're in, that you may be a little bit more careful. But Perkins was a little erratic in this one, had the strikeout pitch working, gets bit by the long ball, continues to show a little bit of a mixed bag. It's sometimes 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. Hopefully Perkins, over the remainder of the second half, can show a little bit more consistency. I mean, you're definitely seeing more and more signs as to why he deserves a spot in the rotation. This isn't one of his better starts, but you can see with that strikeout pitch working, he's a continued work in process, and with some refinement, you can see Perkins being perhaps one of those back-end starters that can be an innings eater and keep other opponents at bay once he kind of puts together his plan on how to get major league hitters out regularly, more consistently. And again, he's a young right-hander. He's going to continue to learn. These are all learning tools for him during these starts for his own personal growth as a professional pitcher, or as a major league pitcher. But like I mentioned at the end of this one, I thought Jeff McNeil had a really baseball-savvy play, especially in the modern game where the bunt seems to be so archaic. But in this situation, down 3, you're trying to do everything you can to fight tooth and nail to get back and win this ball game. Down 3, yes, you're not expecting a situational bunt there, which I think is the perfect time. Man on third, less than 2 outs. Infield's probably playing just to get the out at first. McNeil had it placed perfectly, drives home the run, cuts the deficit to 2, and now the tying run at the plate, and I think it was with 2 outs actually, but still, good situation. Infield's going to be playing back, obviously playing for the out at first. But in that situation now, McNeil reaches, all of a sudden, that time you give your team an opportunity to be 1 swing away from tying the ball game, and that's who Henry Bolte represented with his at-bat before he flew out to left. So I don't really understand why Kenley Jansen was so upset by that. It seems like that he thought McNeil broke some sort of baseball etiquette, that the bunt wasn't acceptable. I couldn't disagree with Jansen more. I think until that 27th out is recorded, you're going to try to do everything you can to win that ball game. And Kenley Jansen is regarded as one of the best closers ever. He's got that nasty cutter no matter what side of the plate you're hitting on. So, of course, you may not be able to get your A swing off him if you're not someone that feels comfortable against the combination of his size with the movement on his pitches. Then you're going to try to find a different alternative method to get to first base and bring home run. So that's the competitor in Jeff McNeil. Completely support what McNeil did, and Jansen, figure it out. Let's get to Game 3 to wrap up our recap of the Tiger series. It was daytime baseball in West Sacramento. A's coming in, trying to avoid the 3-game sweep. Kiter Montero will be getting the ball for the Tigers, going up against A's left-hander Gage Jump. Well, we're not going to spend too much time on this one. Detroit started the scoring right away in the first, thanks to a 2-run single to left, giving the Tigers an early 2-0 lead. It would remain that score until the fourth, and the Tiger lineup would get cooking against Jump. With the bases loaded and 1 out, Gleyber Torres would deliver a 2-run single to increase their lead to 4-0. After Jump struck out Dingler and walked McGonigal, the A's would bring on Elvis Alvarado out of the bullpen. Alvarado would give up a 2-run double to Eduardo Valencia to grow the Detroit lead to 6-0 after 4 and bring an official close to Gage Jump's start for the day. Jump, he went 3 2/3 in this one, 4 hits allowed, 6 runs, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts. From there, the Tigers would get 4 more in the 8th and 1 in the 9th to bring this game and this series to an end. A's had no answers offensively for Montero, and the Tigers bullpen. Ball game over. Tigers win game 3, 11-0, and complete the 3-game sweep. So Jump didn't have it in this one. The Tigers bats really made him work, and he just didn't have that put away stuff with 2 strikes, which led to the Tigers grinding out at bats, getting Jump out of there early, and really increasing that walk total. I mean, 6 walks and not even completing 4 innings, it's not going to get it done. But again, Gage Jump, this is his first go-around in the big leagues. Each start that he takes the mound is a learning lesson. Now, it does seem like hitters have made that adjustment to Jump, and yeah, he had that good start his last time out against Boston, but not as sharp in this one. I think hitters are starting to figure out Jump a little bit, and Jump is going to need to figure out how he can become a little less predictable, because I think that's what we're experiencing right now. And Jump isn't necessarily, he didn't have it and wasn't throwing with as much conviction as we saw his last time out. Again, not going to jump all over him, just observations. This is completely normal, no matter how dominant he had been. He's a young pitcher. It's never going to be smooth sailing for anybody from start to finish. If it was, I think that we'd be playing their own sport, because baseball, it's set up to be a game of failure. For hitters, you're failing 70% of the time and consider it a Hall of Famer potentially. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to look pretty every single time out in his continued development, but I'm expecting Jump to be out there the competitor he is. He's going to learn a lot from what went wrong in the start against Detroit and find a better way to help put his team in a better spot, because typically, for the majority bulk of his starts, even if it hasn't been the sharpest, gave his opportunity to win the ballgame. And this one, not so much, but I don't think it really would have mattered a whole lot, even if Jump threw a gem. And I know sometimes pitching can't set the theme or and provide some momentum for the offense to get going at some point, but just wanted to just really feel that the offense really had a tough weekend. I mean, they weren't going to support any sort of pitching performance. They go 7 for 33 in this one. Again, just the 1 extra base hit. It was a double by Sodi, 2 walks against 7 Ks. Not a lot of tough opportunities with runners in scoring position. They went in 0 for 3. They didn't cash in on any of them. So in the loss, they dropped with the loss and the 3-game sweep at the hands of the Tigers. They dropped to 45 and 67 and remain, I believe, 10.5 out of the top spot in the AL West. They're really marred in a tough streak. They really can't seem to find their way out of the struggle. The hits keep on coming in terms of guys going back and forth on the injured list. It does seem like it's been sorts of a season of hell, and hopefully that this A's team can at least experience some wholeness of health before the season is all said and done. I know that's not clear, it's not going to be fully possible, but with Brent Rooker being shelved until spring training and Shea Langoliers, there's an outside chance that he may be back at the end of September, but more than likely he's done for the year as well, especially if the A's don't string anything together and miraculously find their way back into a postseason spot. Wouldn't make sense for the A's to push Langoliers to come back. I know that he has such a strength and passion for the game and desire to come back and compete with his guys, with his family, even if it's just a week. Just having that opportunity for him to come back after the surgery is something that's provided a lot of personal motivation for Langoliers. But the A's, they've lost 12 of 16 now. They've lost 25 of 30. It's been a really, really tough few weeks here, and just really looking for that light at the end of the tunnel, just to see a few go through the hoop and have some things to build upon for 2027. So we're just awaiting when the bleeding is going to stop. Tough with the revolving door, like we mentioned, on the injured list. But hopefully with some of these younger guys starting to get more regular repetition, that we could start seeing some of that cohesion and start seeing some more numbers lit up in the W column for the green and gold. No 3 stars today. It's really tough after a series like that to reward performances after being dominated basically from start to finish. I know the team collectively showed fight on Saturday, but they were down 8-2 at one point in that ball game as well. So really tough to shine light when two of the games they lost, game 1 and game 3, the bookends of the series, they lose by combined, what was it, 23 runs. So not really, and in total they lose by minus 25. I mean, not really to shine light much there, not really much in terms of collective offensive performances. The pitching, some good individual bullpen performances, but nothing collectively that really gave this team an opportunity to have a fight, a realistic fight in this series. So we're going to move on. It's over and done with. Tigers are on their way for the rest of their season, and the A's, following yesterday's off day, are now preparing for their next opponent. But before we get to that, let's talk about the health status of first baseman Nick Kurtz. The all-star first baseman and reigning American League Rookie of the Year, Nick Kurtz, is putting together a strong sophomore campaign, entering tonight's action, batting .256 with an .879 OPS, 21 home runs, and 69 RBIs in 99 games, ranking third in the majors in walks and third in on-base percentage. There's been a clear drop-off in production from Kurtz, however, since about mid-June. Over his last 22 games, Kurtz is hitting just .123, which is 9 for 73, with a .415 OPS, 2 homers, and 8 RBIs. That stretch includes a stint on the injured list from July 10th to 24th with a right thumb capsule strain, which was recently re-aggravated, leading to yesterday's appointment with the hand specialist. Kurtz was out of the lineup for Sunday's 11-0 loss against the Tigers, and the longer-term outlook appears a bit unclear. Kurtz saw the hand specialist yesterday in LA to examine his right thumb, which has remained a nagging issue since his return from the injured list last week. Kurtz has been playing mostly for the last month and a half with the Sting, manager Marcotte said. You look at the performance and you can tell something has had an impact on that. So we should hear an update later today leading up to their game against the Reds, and we'll provide you an update on social media and perhaps talk about it more on our Friday show. But hoping for encouraging news for Kurtz. I know that's got to be a frustrating injury. He does seem like he has been marred in a pretty extensive slump, but you need your hands when you're hitting. So, of course, if something ain't right there, you're not going to get the best of him, especially if he's experiencing pain during certain swings. You're not going to get your A swing off, and the ball's not going to jump off the barrel like you would hope. So, hopefully, Kurtz finds some solutions and gets on the path to recovery so we can see his best and get back to seeing the Big Amish mash some light tower power type homers. All right, we're just going to touch upon this real quick. So it wasn't really an active deadline for the A's. General manager David Forst leading up had said that they were basically going to stand pat, and that's basically what they did. They did make one move. It did seem like they wanted to get in on the fun of the flurry of all the trade deadline moves that were completed over the weekend and yesterday, it seemed like, for the majority. But the A's did make a swap to try to add depth to their bullpen. They traded with the Philadelphia Phillies. They acquired right-handed pitcher Seth Johnson. In exchange, the A's sent outfielder Colby Thomas. The Phillies were in need of a right-handed hitting outfielding bat. They add that to their depth, and the A's can use all the help they can in the bullpen. So, best of luck to Colby Jack in Philly. We'll see what kind of role that. We'll be sure to continue to keep an eye on him. Very interesting piece for the Phillies that have a rather potent offensive lineup, but certainly can use some depth there. And I can see him roving in as that fourth outfielder, but potentially, I don't know what the Phillies' plan is. Maybe they have him at AAA, but we'll be sure to keep an eye on him. But best of luck to Colby Thomas. Seems like a great guy that will be missed in that clubhouse, and I'm sure his career will continue. A career of promise will continue to blossom. And in the return, the A's get a right-hander in Seth Johnson. Best of luck in the green and gold. Looking forward to seeing what he can bring to help stabilize this bullpen just a little bit as they continue to search for some of that consistency. Before we preview the next opponent coming up for the A's to kick off this week, this episode is brought to you by Visit Mesa. Welcome to Mesa, Arizona, a destination for every season. Experience a destination where adventure culture and culinary experiences are limitless. As the gateway to the stunning Sonoran Desert and Tonto National Forest, Mesa invites you to explore its scenic waterways, kayak through winding canyons, or paddleboard along the Salt River. For a one-of-a-kind desert adventure, ride the waves at Revel Surf at Cannon Beach, the country's first surf park of its kind. Downtown Mesa is a vibrant hub, home to the Mesa Art Center, public art, award-winning breweries, and local shops. Food lovers can explore the fresh foodie trail and the diverse flavors of Mesa's Asian district. Sports fans can experience MLB spring training with the Athletics and the Chicago Cubs, or visit one of North America's largest youth sports complexes. As the world's first autism-certified city, Mesa is dedicated to accessibility and inclusivity for all visitors. All right, following yesterday's off day for travel and to settle into their first road trip destination, the A's kick off the road trip with a 3-game series in Cincinnati, taking on the Reds. The Reds come into tonight's matchup with a 53-58 record and are led by manager Terry Francona. In their latest series, they took 3 out of 4 from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They won 3-2 and 8-7, dropped game 3 4-1 before rebounding on Sunday to win 10-2 to complete the series victory. The Reds enter under 5 games under 500, sitting in last place of perhaps the most competitive division in all of baseball in the NL Central. Managed by Terry Francona, the team is mathematically on the fringe of the wild card race, but heavily shifted into a bit of a seller mode as they navigated yesterday's trade deadline. The defining story of the 2026 team is the rapid transition to its next youth wave alongside high-stakes roster reshaping. The Reds profile as a power-first team plagued by high strikeout rates, backed by a top-heavy pitching staff. The Reds struggle heavily with contact, ranking 27th in batting average and 28th in total strikeouts. However, they play well to Great American Ballpark's dimensions, ranking 7th in Major League Baseball with home runs. While the team boasts elite frontline starting pitching, a heavily reworked bullpen has suffered from structural depth issues. A little bit about their dynamic core pieces. They're led by rookie first baseman Sal Stewart. He is a massive breakout star. He has completely graduated from prospect status to become an NL All-Star and Rookie of the Year frontrunner. Stewart leads the team with 24 home runs and is tied for the Major League lead in RBIs. Chase Burns, their ace starting pitcher, the rookie sensation, is putting together a Cy Young caliber season. Thankfully, the A's don't have to go up against them in this series, as he's been pitching to a brilliant 13-1 record and a 2.35 ERA with 128 strikeouts. He features elite velocity and an unhittable slider. And of course, shortstop Elly De La Cruz, remaining the toolsy focal point of the franchise. Elly provides a solid presence at shortstop, batting .276 with an on-base percentage of .355 and 18 home runs, alongside elite base-stealing value. Cincinnati they were looking to actively move some veteran bats with expiring or valuable contracts. They held on to a high-value component like J.J. Bleday, but they did move on from the Nathaniel Lowe in a move with Cleveland, and Dane Myers had been explicitly placed on the trading block as well. So, offensively, they rank as follows. So we mentioned they're hitting to a .230 batting average, which is actually worse than baseball, They've hit 145 home runs, which is 7th in baseball. They've scored 462 runs, which is 26th. They've walked 407 times, which is 7th, and they've struck out 1,057 times, which is the 3rd most, and they've hit to a .709 OPS, which is 21st. And on the mound, doesn't look much better. They've pitched to a 4.41 ERA, which is 23rd. They've allowed 475 walks, which is 3rd most. They've struck out 890 batters, which is 22nd, and have pitched to a 1.41 WHIP, which is 27th. And defensively, they fielded at a .985 fielding percentage, which is 19th, and their 60 errors committed is tied for 17th in baseball. Their lineup projects as follows. They are typically led off in center field by T.J. Friedl. Batting second, the second baseman, Matt McLean. Batting third, the shortstop, Elly De La Cruz. Batting fourth, the third baseman / first baseman / designated hitter, Sal Stewart. Batting fifth, the left fielder, J.J. Bleday. Batting sixth, it was Nathaniel Lowe, but now probably sliding in more regularly will be Eugenio Suarez. Batting seventh, the right fielder, Noelvi Marte. Batting eighth, the catcher, it's a platoon of Tyler Stevenson and Jose Trevino. And batting ninth, the third baseman, Key Brian Hayes. Now, let's get familiarized with some of these game times and starting pitching probables, as we will be dealing with a little bit of a time zone adjustment. So later tonight, today for us out here, Game 1, 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time first pitch, since they are out in Cincinnati. JT Ginn returns from the injured list to make the start, going up against Reds right-hander Brady Singer. Tomorrow, Game 2, also a 3:40 p.m. Pacific Time first pitch. Mason Barnett will be getting the ball for the A's, going up against Reds right-hander Brett Lauer. And then the Thursday rubber match of this 3-game set. Get your coffee ready. It's a 9:40 a.m. Pacific Time first pitch for us out here in California. Jacob Lopez getting the ball for the A's, going up against Reds right-hander Hunter Green. All right, let's get familiarized with these Reds starting pitchers that the A's hitters will go up against. So Game 1 starter tonight, right-handed pitcher Brady Singer. On the year, he has made 21 starts, pitching to a 5-10 record with a 4.35 ERA and 107 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 36 walks, 91 strikeouts, and a 1.42 whip. In his last start against Cleveland, he went 4 1/3 innings, allowed 6 hits, 4 runs. None of them were earned. Must have been some shoddy defense. 4 walks allowed and 3 strikeouts. Singer profiles as a durable back-of-the-rotation starting pitcher who relies on a heavy ground ball-inducing sinker and a newly adjusted breaking ball mix. Currently pitching in the back of the rotation, the 29-year-old right-hander. It was highly sought after the rental target ahead of the trade deadline. No one made the move. Singer will be making his start for Cincinnati. Singer has put together a contrasting season, enduring a rough start before settling into a dominant stretch over the summer. Since June 1st, he has posted a stellar 2.81 ERA across his last 7 starts. Singer remains a primarily 2-pitch pitcher operating out of a distinct 4-pitch mix. The fastball, which is sinker-heavy, utilizes sinker 47% of the time. His average fastball velocity sits at 91.3 miles an hour, which is roughly 3 ticks below the major league average. When his sinker is on, it generates excellent downward movement and heavy ground ball rates. He rarely blends in his 4-seamer or cutter. His breaking ball upgrades include his slider, which he's used 30% of the time, and a sweeper 13% of the time. He threw a harder, tighter slider while intentionally slowing down his sweeper to create a bigger breaking, distinct horizontal option. He does continue to work with that elite extension as he continues to utilize his frame well, ranking in the 85th percentile in extension. This helps his 91-mile-an-hour fastball play a bit faster to opposing batters. His command remains reliable, grading out in the 64th percentile in walk percentage. Now let's get to know Game 2 starter, right-handed pitcher Rhett Lauer. On the year, he's appeared in 19 games. 16 of those have been starts, pitching to a 3-7 record with a 5.42 ERA. In 83 innings, he's walked 37 batters, 70 strikeouts, and a 1.52 whip. In his last start against Pittsburgh, he went 6 innings, allowed 5 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Lauer is currently operating in the Reds rotation, working through an up-and-down 2026 rookie campaign after losing the entirety of last season due to a cascade of injuries. Though his broad season metrics reflect a developmental learning curve, his elite pitch design and high-level control remain the pillars of his profile. Scouts view Lauer as a high-floor, polished right-hander with an advanced feel for pitching rather than overwhelming velocity. His fastball thrown as a combination of a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer. His velocity typically sits at 93 to 96. The 2-seamer features heavy sinking action to induce ground balls, while he utilizes the 4-seamer at the top of the zone to change eye levels. His slider is a dynamic weapon in the high 80s that features sharp downward biting action. He manipulates its shape effectively to generate swings and misses. His changeup sits in the mid-80s with fading and tumbling action. It has shown flashes of being an above-average to plus pitch, though his usage of it has historically fluctuated. His control is his strongest tool. Lauer exhibits a highly repeatable delivery and a natural ability to throw strikes, though he continues to fine-tune his command to consistently put away elite big league hitters. Lauer entered this year needing to improve his health after a forearm strain and subsequent oblique injury wiped out his 2025 development. To safeguard his health and maximize efficiency, Lauer removed a modest hand pump from his mechanics and built a more direct path to the plate, fixing a previous tendency to drift toward first base. The Reds have managed his workload cautiously following his lost season. He has pitched past the 5th inning selectively, but showed excellent stamina in his July 30th start against Pittsburgh, dealing that 6-inning start of 2-run ball with no walks. He has experienced notable issues with base runners in platoon matchups. Opposing left-handed batters are hitting him harder, taking him for a 5.57 ERA and 30 of his 36 total walks. Keeping the ball down and refining his sequence to lefties will be crucial to lowering his overall ERA. And as for Game 3 starter, right-handed pitcher Hunter Green. He's only made 5 starts this year, pitching to a 2-2 record with a 6.83 ERA. In 27 2/3 innings, he's walked 9 batters, 33 strikeouts, and a 1.37 whip. In his last start against Pittsburgh, he went 6 innings, allowed 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Green, at this point, is officially fully healthy and reestablishing his form in the Reds' rotation. After missing the first 3 months of this season following March surgery to remove bone chips from his right elbow, Green returned to action in July. Despite volatile surface level statistics resulting from knocking off the competitive rust, his raw physical tools remain elite. With his pitch arsenal, he works with his four-seam fastball. His signature velocity has successfully returned to pre-injury form. He routinely sits at 96 to 97 and touches 102 miles an hour with an easy delivery. However, scout notes track a lack of vertical movement on the four-seamer, meaning the pitch can play flatter than the velocity implies if not located perfectly down in the zone. His slider sits in the 82 to 85 mile an hour range. It's his primary secondary weapon, remaining a sweepy high-spin breaker that flashes plus potential and generates empty swings. His cutter-sinker combo, continuing to mix in an inconsistent cutter at 90 to 93 miles an hour, implemented during his development to bridge the gap between his high heater and low breaker. His sinker remains relatively straight. His changeup is still graded as fringe average, with his changeup requiring some refinement. Left-handed hitters historically track him better without a devastating fading option to neutralize them. The durability question remains, as Green has a well-documented injury track record, including 2018 Tommy John surgery and various minor injury-less stints. His decision to undergo cleanup bone spur surgery in March rather than last autumn condensed his 2026 season timeline. However, because he missed the first half of the year, he boasts arguably the freshest arm in baseball for August and September. While his loose, repeatable delivery gives him above-average structural control, his command can drift within outings. This leads to sudden home run vulnerabilities when his fastball leaks over the heart of the plate. Turning 27 on August 6th, Green remains under team control through 2029. Despite a flurry of 50-50 trade market rumors leading up to yesterday's deadline, the front office chose to build around him alongside Chase Burns. Now, let's see how these ace hitters have fared in their previous meetings against these Reds' probable starting pitchers. Against Brady Singer lifetime, Lawrence Butler is 1 for 3 with a home run. Carlos Cortez is 1 for 2 with a home run, and Tyler Soderstrom is 1 for 3 with a double. No one in this A's lineup has ever faced the right-hander Rhett Lauer. And as for against Hunter Green, lifetime Jeff McNeil is 4 for 13 with a double. Jacob Wilson is 1 for 2 with a double, and Carlos Cortez is 1 for 1 with a home run. Now, here are some Reds players to keep an eye on. We are going to keep our eyes on shortstop Elly De La Cruz, the catalyst for this Reds offense. He's hitting .276 on the year with 18 home runs, 50 RBIs, and .855 OPS and 20 stolen bases. Rookie first baseman Sal Stewart is another guy to keep an eye on. He's having a fine season, batting .254 with 24 home runs, 85 RBIs, and an .813 OPS. And, of course, keep an eye on an old friend, former Athletic left fielder J.J. Bleday, batting .227 with 19 home runs, 46 RBIs, and an .805 OPS. Now it is prediction time, as we are going to make our A's Day A's home run prediction, as we select Carlos Cortez is going to homer at least once in this series. Do feel with his previous matchups of homer against two of these starters and their hitter-friendly environments of Great American Ballpark, these Reds right-handers do seem to struggle against left-handed hitting. We're going to roll the dice and say Carlos Cortez gets into one. And as for our series prediction, the bleeding has to stop at some point. And I know Cincinnati is still making that push for the NL wildcard spot, but nevertheless, the A's got to get some wins in the win column. So we are going to predict that the A's are going to take 2 out of 3 in this one. We think they're going to win tonight 8-5 before the Reds win tomorrow 6-2. And we think the A's will take the rubber match on Thursday 6-5. So I hope you all are able to settle in and enjoy the early start out here for the A's getting their road trip started in Cincinnati once again tonight. First pitch, 3:40 p.m. Pacific time. JT Ginn, welcome back from the injury list. He'll be getting the start for the green and gold. The A's will be going up against Reds right-handed pitcher Brady Singer, who's been on a bit of a roll, looking for the A's to knock him off track. So hope you're enjoying a little bit of interleague action to kick off the week, and we can't wait to talk about it on our next show, and hopefully we'll be talking about a series victory, because with that brings us to the close of another edition of A's Day. Appreciate you all stopping by to hear our thoughts on athletics baseball. We will be back behind the mic for Friday's show, as we are going to recap what goes down in Cincinnati against the Reds. We'll discuss any other A's news that comes across our desk. Hopefully got some positive injury updates of some guys on the way. Hopefully some good news to talk about with Nick Kurtz. We'll get some more news later today. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth on Friday's show. And then to conclude Friday's show, to send you into the weekend, we are going to recap their next opponent It does seem like, yes, they just played the Boston Red Sox last week, but that was at home in West Sacramento. This time, to continue their road trip, they're going to fly from Cincinnati to Boston to take on the Red Sox over this weekend. So we'll be sure to preview that matchup to send you off into the weekend for more A's baseball. That's all I have for you today. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you all for your continued support, and thank you for stopping by. Once again, we appreciate you. This is what we do it for, the lovely audience. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Enjoy some A's baseball. And until next time, when we meet on Friday, Holy Toledo, let's go A's.